This video going to show how to paint a candle, and particular for some glow on the flame that comes out of it. So I'm going to go ahead and start. I've got this is 2400 by 1200, so it's twice as large as it is, or twice as high as it is wide. I'm going to go ahead and turn on mirror painting just to kind of block the basic candle shape in. I'm going to pick a white candle, and I'm doing this on a layer initially because I want to be able to see what I'm doing, and I'm going to use mirror painting so I can do half the work. So and let's get a candle tip. We'll undo that. So basic candle shape, basic wobbly candle shape, but this is okay. So the ellipse is wider at the bottom than it is at the top, and this will be fine to start. So I'm going to go ahead and paint this in. I'm on a new layer, of course, so I'm painting on this background mostly just so I can see what I'm doing, but I know that I am going to be making this on a dark background. So starting here, lower the opacity a little bit, 35%. Kind of a nice cool color, and this is just going to be very, very quick, so I want to get through most of this. I'm going to go ahead and turn off mirror painting now. I might turn it on and off, but don't think I need to too much. Top of the candle actually is going to be kind of warm because we're going to have a candle flame showing on top of this. And this is just the basic thing. So I'm zoom in a little bit, and clean up a couple things. I'm going to do an erase here because I want to get rid of some of this side so that I can get some kind of melted parts of the candle, and it'll just give me a little bit of a chance to clean off some of my initial outline. That's not very important at this point. Go back, and this is just the most basic brush. Comparable brush would be in the fast and simple brushes, just the flat color brush. So I'm going to make this have some drips. Excuse me, got quite the cold today. This will be kind of where the main candle flame comes. And it, of course, because candle flame is melting, it's not going to have really nice edges. I'm going to paint the edges a little better as I go, but what's critical to me at this point is I want to get into painting the flame. So this is pretty good enough start. I'm going to go ahead and create a new layer. This will be for the candle flame. Let me look down, see how much room I've got here. So on here, I'm going to go ahead and draw a little wick. And I'm going to create a new layer, and this is going to be the candle flame. So come in here and kind of pick a not full strength orange, yet, but going to draw candle flame. Don't have to be perfect. This is just kind of the basic thing. I'm going to erase out of that, make it a little bit smaller. And maybe like there's a little air that is blowing it. Range it around here. And I'm going to turn on the Protect Transparency at this point, and with the brush, and I'll use a digital airbrush right now. I'm going to go ahead and lighten some of this candle flame down low. Kind of pull it up through the middle. This is, I'm not trying to be realistic so much as just trying to do kind of what maybe somebody would expect a candle flame to look like. And surprisingly enough, there will be kind of a little blue area where the flame burns. So look at this, move it across. Looks pretty good at this point. Don't want to scale it up or down too much. I'm going to do erase down here, and going to cut out a little bit of the bottom of this, maybe a little bit around to the edge. And I'm going to soften this whole thing a little bit. Uncheck this Preserve Transparency, Effect, Focus, Soften. That's good enough. And I go back to my wick here. This may be not really quite as bright as I want, so I'll have to decide that. And back with my basic brush, and I'm going to turn on Preserve Transparency. And so the wick right here, I'm going to come back in and paint it orange. And as it goes down, of course, it gets a little bit darker. Zoom in so you can see this a little bit more. And as it goes up here, a little bit brighter. Then as it goes up here, a little bit brighter still. Because it's burning. A little bit more bright orange here and there. Turn that off because I want to make it really bright on its tip. And must have a little bit, yep, a little bit of candle flame on it. So a little brighter on the top. Let me erase around this a little bit. And down here, maybe I'll make there be a little bit of kind of brownish. Do whatever you want. Nobody really knows what a candle flame looks like. You clean up just a little bit, and I'm going to erase, just clean up the edge. Okay, back to the brush, a little darker down here. I think that will look better. Right on the edge, I'm going to make it really pretty red, like it's getting hotter and hotter as it goes down. And if I really want to, can indicate some of the little fibers that would be in the string of the wick. So I need to do a little bit of erasing here and make sure I'm on the right layer. So that's actually looking pretty good. I think I want a little bit more blue on there, so I'm going to go ahead and get my airbrush. This kind of turquoisey blue color. And erase a little bit of that. That'll work. Now I'm going to move that down just a little bit. Like the gases are combusting as it burns off of here. And if I want, duplicate this layer just to try something that I may or may not like. Turn off the bottom layer, so this one, and I'm going to come up under brushes, and I'm going to pick. I'm going to turn on brush picker, window, brush selector, the full panel view, so I don't have to drill down looking for what I might want. I'm going to go to the effects brushes, and I'm going to pick Distorto, and the strength, that probably is okay. Big. Get on the right layer. And I'm just trying to push and pull to see if I like, if I can make a little bit more interesting candle flame. I don't think there's any right or wrong way. Okay, that's pretty good, and it's working with the background, but because I don't want to have that, let me see what if this will make a difference. Nope. Okay, so what I'm going to have to do now is turn this off, and I need to get rid of a bunch of this stuff. And I would do it coming back in erasing, but I'm not going to do it now because just for speed's sake. I'm going to get rid of that layer, turn the canvas back on, and I'm going to concentrate right now on painting the flame. So I'm going to darken the background significantly. I'm just going to fill it with a much darker, so it's like in a dark room somewhere, and maybe even a little darker than that. Okay, so I want the candle to be lighting my way in this dark room. I'm going to filled the wrong layer. Control Z. And that'll work. I'm going to group these layers for, maybe I can do it. I just selected them all. I'm going to scale it down, make it a little fatter, move it into the center a bit more. This is all just because I want to. And hit enter. And then the flame, I don't like it that little, so I'm going to stretch it out a bit more. And pretty good start. Really simple, really easy. I want to now go ahead and create a layer actually above just the background. And what I'm going to do is get the ellipse selection tool, and I'm going to drag a pretty big ellipse, kind of center it on the flame, and I'm going to turn this to screen. I'm going to fill it with pretty dark red color, and I may have to try this a couple times just to make sure it works like I want. So with the, and that's not too bad. Look how dark it is, and look how light it is here. Except I think I wanted a little more purple to go into the background. Too bright, pretty dark, like that. So I'm going to go ahead and create another layer on top of that, and I'm going to fill it with another layer, a little bit lighter, maybe a little bit dark. Then I'm going to create another layer, and this one I'm going to fill with pretty bright color. Now they will change because you're still seeing the colors underneath, but this is what I want to have happen. So I'm going to hide that, Control D, bring up this layer, and I'm going to come up under Effects, Focus, and Soften. And I got the wrong layer selected, so let's make me get the right one. Soften, and I want it to be quite a bit, enough that you probably can't really see the edge of what I've got. So I'm going to click OK. I'm going to zoom out, Control T, make this one quite a bit bigger, quite a bit more round, center it over the flame. And you really can't be probably too big with this layer. So get it where you like it, Enter. And I'm going to soften it again. Soften. And you can see the difference. And Effects, Soften again. And now lower the opacity a little bit, because this is just kind of the background glow I want. I could make the background darker if I was interested in having that work. So let me see. Wrong way. Let me move it around. So that's maybe actually better, except I probably should have a much darker background color. So that's probably a little bit better for that glow. Let me change the background just a little bit. Start of the candle. So I want to commit that. Whoops. So let's try it again. Oh, I didn't want to express the paint in it so much. Let me go just soften. Commit, okay. And go back and go on to the next layer. So that'll work. So here's the next layer, and I'm going to scale this one a little bit, but more down. I'll make it a little wider. And I'm going to do another couple of softens on it. So Enter, Effects, Soften, and another one, Effects, Soften. Okay, now I actually like that quite a bit, although I think it's not quite as bright as I want it. So I'm going to click on that layer, and I'm going to fill it with a bit brighter color. So let's come up and see what makes a difference. I guess I need to make sure I'm on the right layer. So I was on the wrong layer, so we'll come back to the right layer. That's a little too much. I'm going to clear it off. Go back. One more where it's hard. Control the edge and fill that in. I may want to make even a little lighter. Nope, not quite that light, but I'll keep it the same basic color. Okay, that'll work. Effects, focus. I'll just do this top one. Effects, soften. Try either. I think I still want Gaussian. Effects, soften. Okay, and I'm going to lower the opacity of this one a little bit. I think I want this background layer to scroll to go bigger, because I kind of want the purple to really act like it's glowing. So I think that's probably what I want. Yes. And on this layer, I think I want it to be a little more round and kind of on the main flame. And how much opacity do I want? I think I want to soften it some more. Yeah, that's kind of what I want. And then this last glowing layer. And I'm going to go ahead and scale this one. Whoops, wrong layer. And this I really want to be over just the main candle source itself. So effects, soften, effects, soften. And that looks pretty good. I want this red one, I think, to be a little larger. So I hold down Shift and Alt, and then it will scale it on top of itself. That looks good. This looks okay, but I'd like a little bit maybe brighter glow right around the candle itself. So what I'll do is I will come up and duplicate the candle flame layer, that one, and duplicate layer. And on the bottom one, Control T, so I hold down the Shift and Alt. I want to scale it from the inside out. It got away from me a little bit, but that's okay. Just want it to be a little bit bigger than the candle flame itself. So I might rotate it. And I'm going to soften this. And that may be enough. I'm going to turn it to screen and lower the opacity quite a bit, because this is just to add kind of a little bit of glow right around the candle itself. And a little pulled off here, but maybe I don't care. You know, I don't like that so much, so backspace. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make another selection, kind of thin around the flame itself. Transform it, just rotate it just a little bit. And this one I will fill on that layer with, you know, brighter yellower color. And it is screen already, and it is quite bright. And it's just going to be adding some overall glow right kind of around the center. Maybe I don't need to rotate it. It's kind of trial and error to get what I want. And effects, soften. And it could even be a little bit lighter. So let me do that. So Control, select that. Wrong layer. Control, select that. And let's fill it with brighter yellow. Screen, very bright. And you've got to kind of decide where enough's enough. You know, I actually think that's maybe a little too much, so I'm going to dump that layer. I'm going to try this one again, so duplicate this layer and screen it. Let's see what happens if I move it up above. Actually, I kind of like that. So I'm going to leave that. There's the underlying layer. And I'm going to lower the opacity on the top one some, but actually really I do kind of like that extra really glowy. But I'm going to soften it, so effects, but not quite that much. So maybe no soften, so it just softens the edges around the candle itself. Control T just to make it slightly bigger. And I think that's not too bad. It's really bright, so we will lower it a little bit. Let's go down and lower some of these other glows. Too much and it becomes too much. So I think I want to take these down all so they're not quite as obvious. The candle isn't like, you know, huge. See what happens. Obviously, it's not like a spotlight, so you want to be a little more careful with it. So there is, kind of in a nutshell, how I would go about doing a candle flame. And in the continuation of this, I will go ahead and group all these layers, or group the flame layers, Control G, because I don't want to collapse them yet, because I want to be able to move them around, play with them, make them a little closer, a little farther away. I could at this point drop all these background layers, but I'm going to Control G those and name them glow. And then this top one, flame. And in the continuation of this, I will be painting I'll be painting some smoke and some drips on the candle.